Hello from Malta Airport in southern Sardinia. Today, I'm flying to Pisa on Ryanair. Before I get started, I want to give a special shout out to Madhu, who took me on this journey. If you're looking for a magnificent place to visit, go to the island of Sardinia. We drove the entire island on this trip, and I have to say it's one of the most stunning places on Earth, and Ryanair makes it easy to get there year-round. And you'll be joining me right now as I enter the terminal from the lower level after having returned my rental car. After dropping off my bag, I worked my way to the secure area from the main departures hall. And after security, it was a short walk through the obligatory shopping area before entering the gate area. Instead of lots of windows on the wall of the departures area, there were plenty of shops, so it was really tough to see what I wanted to see, my aircraft. If it weren't for signs indicating where the gates are, you'd think that you're in a shopping mall, specifically an Italian shopping mall where there are plenty of shops that were genuinely Italian. The FID screen showed flights to other European cities, and as I searched for my flight, Ryanair Flight 6100, I saw that it would be leaving from gate 14, which meant that I'd be leaving from a lower level, which I didn't know about since I saw this display, so I worked my way to the elevator for gates 7 to 18 to make the descent of one flight to the area where I'll be boarding. European elevators are unique in their floor numbering system. The ground floor is labeled 0. Upon arrival at 0, the door opened directly to the gate. The Ryanair boarding process is not what I'm used to. There are just two groups, Priority and everyone else, and at this airport, there are no seats at all in the gate area. Passengers just arrive at the gate and queue up. There weren't even any announcements. An employee simply showed up at the gate desk and then began scanning boarding passes. From there, all passengers walked to an outdoor area, and since I couldn't even see my aircraft from the gate area, I wasn't sure if we'd be taking a bus or not to the 737-800. It turned out we would be walking. All the passengers queued up for a few moments at the door to the terminal, then it was off to the most exciting way one can board, via air stairs. And we'll be using air stairs that are built into the airplane. This allows Ryanair to have quick turnaround times. This beautiful 737 was delivered to Ryanair in 2017, but it currently bears a registration of Air Malta, despite it still being painted in Ryanair's colors. Air Malta is a subsidiary of Ryanair. This plane is powered by two CFM56 7B26 engines. Let's take this bird up to Pisa. About 1 hour after takeoff, I'll be getting the same view I have here, but it will be in Pisa in the Tuscany region, and we'll be crossing the Tyrrhenian Sea to get there. But for now, I'm just thinking how lucky I am to be boarding this way. Simultaneously, passengers were also boarding via the rear air stairs, but I'm in the front since my seat is closer to the front of the aircraft. What a great way to board an airplane. The weather happens to be delightful for this kind of boarding today. What a view. Alright, we're aboard this Ryanair 737-800 and we're all set to go to Pisa Airport. Let's go. My seat is on the right side of the aircraft ahead of the wing, and I'm fortunate that the window is well aligned with the seat and there's no missing window. Check out my previous video where my seat practically lacked a window. That wasn't fun.
Chiediamo cortesemente di assicurarvi che i telefoni cellulari e dispositivi elettronici siano da questo momento in modalità aereo. Grazie. Ladies and gentlemen, across the aircraft doors, we ask you please to make sure mobile phones and electronic devices are mobile on flight mode. Thank you.
After announcements in both Italian and English, we pushed back onto the Cagliari Malta Airport ramp, and we were the only aircraft doing so at the time. With Sardinia being a popular vacation spot, this flight operated during the off-season with less flights. As a matter of fact, most of the airport's airlines suspended operations during the off-season. Ryanair maintains a focus city here and is the largest carrier at the airport, with 26 year-round destinations and 13 seasonal routes. Pisa, our destination, is offered year-round, and as a matter of fact, this airplane's previous flight was actually from Pisa. The airport is called Elmas because it's in the Elmas municipality of Cagliari. Cagliari is just a few miles away from here. The airport was built in 1937 and is one of 3 international airports on this island. This airport has one 9,199-foot-long runway, and today it's being used in the direction of runway 14, like this arriving Vueling A320 from Barcelona. In a few moments, we'll be on the same runway, in the same direction, performing a takeoff. With the tug removed, all we need to do now is turn right under the guidance of the ground controller and taxi out to runway 14. Once near the runway, we'll be issued takeoff clearance by the local controller. Just like any airport with a single runway, we won't be able to enter the runway until all landing traffic has touched down, and there must not be any airplane on final approach for landing. At the time of filming this during the off-season, the only aircraft movement that I observed was that Vueling airplane, so we taxied toward the runway with no delay and took off without any delay. The parallel taxiway to the runway led us to the end of taxiway Double Alpha, where we crossed the hold bar. The runway is now ours, and since there are no aircraft, we are cleared for takeoff without coming to a stop. Runway 14 has a southeast heading, so once airborne, we'll be facing southeast. Our destination of Pisa is to the north, so we obviously have to turn around to get there. Once we climb out, we'll be making a left-hand turn to head back around to the north. Our initial climb out, however, will actually keep us runway heading for a bit first. If we were to start a left-hand turn immediately, we'd be flying over the city of Cagliari. So we'll climb out over the sea, gaining some altitude before we make the left turn. A left turn, of course, is a more efficient turn since it's a more direct way to get to the north. While a right turn could potentially be feasible, it keeps us over land for the climb out. We'll have less of a low-altitude noise footprint with the left turn. Unfortunately, the city of Cagliari is on the left side of the aircraft during the initial climb, and we'll be circling around the city and the airport to the left, so I won't get to see it while seated on the right-hand side of the airplane. However, I'll make up for the lack of a city view during the approach to Pisa, where we will see the city of Livorno in full sight while we're on the final approach course. I really like seeing cities from the air. We're looking at the Stagno di Cagliari, or Pool of Cagliari. This wetland is home to flamingos, specifically what's known as greater flamingos, the largest type of flamingos in existence. The area can also be called a lagoon, and although it is open to the sea, 2 rivers flow into it. Under the Ramsar Convention, this is a wetland of international importance. The Ramsar Convention is a treaty for wetlands for sustainable use and conservation. The lagoon consists of salt pans which extract salt from seawater. As we climb, the tower controller hands the pilot off to the radar controller for the airspace. Once we get higher, the pilot will be talking to the high-altitude Rome control zone, which handles all of Sardinia, and the Tyrrhenian Sea, which we'll be flying over to get to Pisa. Once we head north, it will be a rather straight run all the way to the runway for landing today. The wide, open area of water is the Golfo di Cagliari, also known as the Golfo degli Angeli, or the Gulf of Angels. This is a bay that's part of the Tyrrhenian Sea with both sandy and rocky coasts. We'll be flying within this bay as we turn back around to the north to overfly southern Sardinia again before making the longer crossing of the Tyrrhenian. We're going to start that left turn now. Our turn is completed within the Golfo di Cagliari, and we make landfall once again at the folksy suburban town of Cagliari as we head toward our destination. Sardinia has many beautiful mountains which tower over stunning landscapes with many uninhabited areas. Cagliari is the capital of the Sardinia region, but most of the island is sparsely populated, but there are many municipalities scattered throughout. This is Bursay, which is located 16 miles to the northeast of Cagliari. Clouds covered part of Sardinia, but we're flying parallel to the eastern coast of this massive island, the second largest in the Mediterranean Sea. The east coast of Sardinia forms the western border of the Tyrrhenian Sea, which is part of the larger Mediterranean. The eastern border of the Tyrrhenian Sea is the boot of Italy itself. We'll be flying over the Tyrrhenian Sea soon, and I was fortunate that I was able to see some of the shoreline before the water portion of this flight. Here, in the province of Siniscola, is the small seaside town of La Caletta, which is a popular destination for tourists. This part of Sardinia is served by the Olbia Costa Smeralda airport. It's now time for us to cross the Tyrrhenian Sea. Let's move forward to the point where I had my first sight of the Italian peninsula in Tuscany during the descent. Here we can see Piombino in the province of Livorno. As we descend toward Pisa, we fly directly over the island of Elba, which we can see through the clouds. Elba is a Tuscan island and is the largest of 7 islands in the area. Right over Elba, this 737 descended through the cloud deck under the control of local radar controllers. We're paralleling the Tuscan shoreline just south of Livorno, and the runway is practically straight in front of us. I'm now very happy about sitting on the right side of the plane. I missed the great view of Cagliari on departure, but I'm happy to know that we get to see all of Livorno in its entirety from the best viewpoint possible. Livorno, also known as Leghorn in English, is a port city of around 150,000. Livorno was set up as a coastal city to defend Pisa, which is only about 12 miles away and slightly inland. It was eventually enhanced by the Medici family, and there are many relics in the town to visit. Being a coastal town, it's very famous for its seafood dishes, including many dishes prepared in the Livornese style. Livorno is also a cruise ship port. Since the more famous cities of Pisa and Florence are not on the water, cruise ship passengers arriving in Livorno often take day excursions to see the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Pisa or the Ponte Vecchio in Florence. But Livorno isn't an attraction in itself. It's around Livorno where we receive clearance for the approach to Pisa and are handed off to the local control tower for landing clearance. Today, we'll be landing on runway 4 right, the parallel runway to runway 4 left. Runway 4 right heads in a northeasterly direction, so we didn't have to make huge turns to get lined up with the final approach course. From here, you can see how low we are and how close Livorno is to the Pisa airport. And the Pisa airport sits right up against the south side of the city of Pisa, so it's a convenient airport for both cities. We're now on final approach to runway 4 right, which has a length of 9,820 feet, which is slightly shorter than its parallel runway to the left. We're cleared to land and the runway is directly ahead of us. The gear is down on this 737 and we are in full landing configuration. The final approach course brings us over fields. If we were to approach the airport from the opposite direction on runway 22 left, we'd be flying directly over the populated city of Pisa. Runway 22 left would be in use if the winds were coming from the south, and if you happen to be flying into Pisa Airport and landing on runway 22 left, I highly recommend sitting on the right side of the plane for a view of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I would have preferred an approach to runway 22 left to see the Leaning Tower, but the right side gave me a great view of Livorno, so in any case, the right side is the best side of the airplane for the approach. Pisa is the largest airport in Tuscany and is named after the scientist Galileo Galilei, who was born in Pisa in 1564. The airport is a focus city for Ryanair, and most of the airport's destinations are in Europe or Northern Africa. Several years ago, Delta operated a 757 here non-stop from JFK. That used to be Delta's longest 757 flight. The Italian Air Force and the 46th Air Brigade uses this airport, and it's common to see aircraft like C-130s here mixed in with airline traffic like the flight I'm on right now. During the Second World War, the U.S. Army Air Force had a base here. It's a very popular airport. We vacated the runway at the very end to the left. We didn't need to use the entire runway for the landing roll, but the airline terminal is past the end of the runway, so continuing the landing to the very end makes complete sense. Plus, if we were to vacate runway 4 right earlier, we'd have to taxi down runway 4 left since there's no parallel taxiway. Under the guidance of ground control, we take taxiways Delta and Echo and cross runway 4 left to the ramp for the very short taxi to the parking position. If we were to land on runway 22 left, the taxi to the ramp would have been much longer. I would have preferred that because of the view of Pisa on final approach, and I'd get to see more of the airport at a low taxi speed after landing, but I'm just happy I got to fly across the Tyrrhenian Sea on a Ryanair 737-800. It truly was a great flight, and I'm sad that it's over, but I'm thrilled to know that we'll be using air stairs again to deplane. All right, well, that was a great flight on Ryanair. Thank you so much for joining me today. Well, thanks so much for joining me on Ryanair. I can't wait to bring you more videos, including more flights in Europe and the USA. If you haven't done so already and you like this video, I invite you to click on the subscribe button, hit the bell button and the like button so you don't miss out on the next video that I post for you. There's some great content coming up on this channel. Thanks everybody, and see you in the sky very soon.